The president's turn to the judicial system is not slowing the challenges for the Jeffrey Epstein story that have been created for him inside Congress. There's a bipartisan push underway right now to demand the release of all the Jeffrey Epstein files that is underway in the House. So far, it's got 10 Republican co-sponsors that include some of the president's most vocal supporters, as you can see here. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie tweeted, "Folks, keep the pressure on. It's working, but we want all the files." The leading Democrat on that legislation is my source tonight, California Congressman Ro Khanna, and it's great to have you here, sir. I wonder, when it comes to what the White House is pushing for now, after facing so much pressure to release parts of the grand jury testimony that can be released, do you think that's a good start?
It is a good step, and they obviously are responding to what Thomas Massie and I are doing in Congress and the fact that there are 10 Republican co-sponsors. The problem is, Caitlin, that most of those grand jury evidence files are concern Epstein and Maxwell. They aren't concerning all of the rich and powerful men who may have engaged in illegal conduct. And the second problem is that is subject to a court's order, whereas there's a lot that the Justice Department has in terms of interview memorandum, in terms of texts and emails that is in their own discretion to release, and they can do that while protecting the victims.
When it comes to what the push is for on Capitol Hill, with the number of co-sponsors that you have, can't you force a vote come September?
We can. In fact, we could have probably forced it earlier, and the Speaker is well aware of this, and that's why I think he's going to adjourn us early next week, because they don't want the 7 days to take place. Massie and I introduced the bill. It has to sit there for 7 days before we can have the discharge petition. So as soon as we come back from recess, we will have the votes. We will have all 212 Democrats. We have 10 Republicans right now who've co-sponsored, and none of them have taken their names off since President Trump has made the statement about the grand jury. And I expect that we're going to get more Republicans engaging in and co-sponsoring this.
Okay, so you're saying you will force a vote come September. I want you to listen. You mentioned Speaker Mike Johnson. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say about how this whole saga is playing out.
You know, again, this is a distraction. This is a distraction. We have major issues right here with things we're voting on today in the Congress, again, in terms of the rescission that the President and the Senate have sent back over us to cut all of these resources out of helping poor people throughout the world, to America play its leadership role in soft power to keep us safe and to keep us healthy, so that viruses know no boundary. And instead, we're talking about about this thing, and his own base has its own views of what the president should do. I'll leave it up to them to talk it out.
Are you contributing to what she says is a distraction?
Well, not only is it not a distraction, it's one of the most important issues. I'll tell you 3 reasons why. First, there are a lot of Democrats who say fight, fight, fight. How about fight smartly and strategically? This is the first time in my memory that you have actually legislation that is splitting the MAGA base. When else, on any scandal, on any issue, have you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Tim Burchett, Lauren Boebert, all align with Democrats to say Donald Trump isn't doing what he promised? Second, this is about who do you trust in government? Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of protecting rich and powerful people who have had too much sway, too much influence for decades? Are you against this corrupt system, or are you going to protect them? And so I think it goes to the fundamental issue of trust in government, and is the Democratic Party going to be a populist party?
So why didn't Democrats introduce this kind of legislation the last 4 years?
Well, there are a couple of reasons. One, Donald Trump ran on this, and he said he was going to release the file, so he raised the stakes. Second, Pam Bondi went on national television and said that there was a Epstein list. Now, I know she's walking it back and saying she's just was talking about a file on her desk, but they have so raised the stakes of this that now ordinary Americans believe that rich and powerful people are being protected and that the government is hiding something. So it now has become an issue of trust. But you're right, we didn't raise it in Trump 1 or Biden until Donald Trump has made this a symbol for corruption in government.
Congressman Ro Khanna, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
On two fronts tonight, we are seeing the president turn to the courts. First tonight, his Department of Justice has asked a judge for permission to release some, but not all, of the information they have related to Jeffrey Epstein. More on that in a moment. And second, and in an unprecedented move, we're seeing the president file a libel lawsuit accusing the Wall Street Journal, its parent company, and Rupert Murdoch himself of defamation. The president is furious over this article that published last night, alleging that he wrote a crude birthday message to Jeffrey Epstein more than 21 years ago. The two men were friends at the time, before Epstein had been charged with any crimes. And still, the president's anger over this story so high that he took it up with the Speaker of the House directly.
The president and I talked about that ridiculous allegation this morning. He said it's patently absurd. He's never drawn such a picture. He's never thought of drawing such a picture. And he said, did you see the language of this bogus supposed communication or card or something I supposedly sent to Epstein? He said, I don't talk like that. I don't think like that. They're literally making things up. And he's so frustrated by it.
Part of what he's so frustrated by is this. According to the Wall Street Journal, the letter to Epstein included a drawing of a naked woman, a fact that the president seized on. This, quote, these are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures. Though there is this sketch he drew in 2005 of the New York City skyline. It actually sold at auction for about $30,000 back in 2017. The president, who in this lawsuit tonight is taking issue with the Wall Street Journal, describing him as being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, despite video and pictures that we've seen of the two of them together previously before what was described as a falling out. This lawsuit tonight insists that there is no authentic letter or drawing that exists, and it's seeking at least $10 billion in damages. On Truth Social, the president posted right after and said, I hope Rupert and his, quote, friends are looking forward to the many hours of depositions and testimonies they will have to provide in this case. Lawyers have noted it's also standard for the plaintiff, which would in this case would be the president, to be deposed in a lawsuit like this. But in the meantime, the story may actually be helping him when it comes to the political aspect of all of this. For the first time in weeks, we've been listening to these right-wing podcasters who've been so furious with the president and his team's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, we're seeing some of MAGA's most influential voices rallying behind him.
Last night, they tried to actually destroy him with what looks like a phony and fake letter. President Trump has put him on blast, put Murdoch on blast, particularly, as I have long recommended. Those clips right there are over a number of years. And who had the stones to stand up to Murdoch? So most of these guys are still sucking up to Fox and sucking up to the Wall Street Journal. Quite frankly, the Murdochs concocted something last night and thought it'd be a kill shot on President Trump. And lo and behold, it's the exact opposite, because President Trump is now on offense of what we said should be done.
Steve Bannon's thoughts on this lawsuit, and this comes, I should note, as the Attorney General is asking a judge here in New York to unseal portions of the grand jury material in the Epstein case. In this court filing today from the Justice Department, they say that public pressure is the reason they're doing this. They write, quote, given the public interest in the investigative work conducted by the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation into Epstein, the Department of Justice moves the court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts in United States versus Epstein, subject to appropriate redactions of victim-related and other personal identifying information. Now, as litigious as Donald Trump's history is, when we look at this tonight and what the DOJ is asking a court in New York here for and waiting to see what that looks like, but also this lawsuit and the step of a sitting president suing a news outlet, it marks a significant shift in his push to silence criticism. He's never been shy about voicing his frustration with the Wall Street Journal in the past.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything.
Look, Wall Street Journal is China-oriented, and they're really bad to this country. Wall Street Journal has truly gone to hell.
But he's not only suing the Wall Street Journal. He's also suing the paper's owner himself, the person who just 5 months ago, President Trump welcomed into the Oval Office.
The legendary Rupert Murdoch. Rupert is in a class by himself. He's an amazing guy. I have great respect for Rupert Murdoch.